Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of PNSQ Chronicles. We are approaching the Pacific Northwest Software Quality Conference in just about a month by the time that this gets on the air. And I am excited today to have one of our keynote speakers as well as workshop presenters, Ben Simo. Ben, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
We have two areas that we're going to talk about today, and they're both fairly closely related. Let's start with your talk, which is Monsters and Magicians, Testing the Illusions of Generative AI. Now, I think this is an interesting aspect because I know that AI has, let's face it, it's about the only thing that people are talking about lately from a tech sphere, which can get to be a little bit overwhelming. And I think there's a lot of stuff that's in here that we have machines that we think are acting and that are doing things that we perceive as magic, borrow from the Arthur C. Clarke quote, but not really. And so I guess my question is, what's your spin for this? Well, for your main keynote talk.
Yeah, so I see people tend to gravitate towards two extremes when it comes to AI. One is that it is magic. It does, everything. It's going to replace me in my job, or it's going to replace you in your job. And then I see the other extreme of people find one example of AI behaving badly and they totally dismiss it. This is of no use. Part of responsible use of AI is, and AI is, at least as we call it today, even though the term is 70 years old, when people talk about AI today, they're generally talking about machine learning based AI. And most specifically, because it's the current hype bubble we're in, are things based off of large language models. And that includes the generative AI and also agentic AI, such as things built off of MCP frameworks. So much of the current talk is around these language models. And as with any model, these AI models are wrong because they're models, but they can be useful. So the challenge is to balance the usefulness and the harmfulness, because they can also be harmful. And testing plays a very important role in helping understand how useful they are and how harmful they are. And as a result of their non-deterministic nature, it changes the way, at least for many people, they need to approach testing.
So you've outlined three areas, probably several more in here, but three areas that you would say would be key things to take away from this. And part of that is the risks related to AI and also the unpredictability of AI outputs, as well as how do you determine that you are actually looking at the capabilities of AI and doing so in a safe manner. Does that seem like a fair assessment?
Yes. And it really puts safety in the forefront. In the safety critical world, both software and other systems, people talk about testing in terms of efficacy and safety. That you do testing to relate to efficacy, you demonstrate that it does whatever you intend it to do, it provides the value you intend, but then you can provide value but potentially be unsafe. And that lack of safety may come from the presence of features you built or the lack of features. And with AI, because especially machine learning based AI, where it is non-deterministic, where we know it will make some mistakes, it will sometimes be wrong, it becomes all the more important to consider the safety side. And it's very important to think in terms of social risk rather than just technical risk. And most of the regulatory frameworks that are popping up around AI are based on social risk. It's not about what technology you use. You're not regulated because you choose to use a language model or you choose to use some other type of model. You are regulated based on the context in which you are using it and the social risk related to that context. And when we think about AI risk, we need to think in both from a technical perspective, but also the social perspective. And the risk is potentially greater because we're not creating explicit algorithms to solve explicit problems. We're using patterns and probabilities and data to approximate whatever analysis we might do, and that will sometimes be wrong. So, and there will also then be, there's a greater chance for unintended consequences. Whether it's because the thing's wrong or people use our AI-based solution in a way that we don't intend.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for that. And also, I want to encourage everybody out there that registration for the conference is still ongoing. Our conference is going to be the 13th and 15th of October. And of course, you have different ways that you can attend. If you are going to come in person, we would absolutely love to see you in Portland. However, we also do have a virtual option so that you can participate in the conference if you can't physically be here. However, there is an aspect of this that you must be here to participate in, and that is going to be Ben's workshop, which is Embracing the Fuzzy, Testing in the Age of Generative AI. So you can hear the ideas that Ben is talking about, but if you want to actually play with them, my suggestion is come on out and Ben can show you and you can get your hands dirty doing it yourself. So tell me a little bit about what you plan on doing with Embracing the Fuzzy.
Yeah, so in the workshop, we'll talk about the nature of AI and its fuzziness. And we'll talk about how, maybe methods that people are accustomed to using for testing don't work well. If you have fuzzy outputs, if your approach is typically, I'm going to create a test case with a set of inputs, and I always expect the same outputs, and I'm going to evaluate on a Boolean nature as pass or fail. That doesn't work well in the world of fuzzy software. So we'll talk about what are other ways that we can test the fuzzy parts of the system. And we'll not only talk about it, I'll present concepts and then give people opportunity to actually apply them. So we will have opportunity to evaluate, what we might want to evaluate or benchmark in an AI-based system, and identify those, prioritize those, come up with. We're not actually going to create code for something. So this is great for someone who's a software developer, a tester, a manager. I last did this workshop, a subset of this workshop, with a group of people that was mostly senior managers and C-level executives, and it went over very well with them as well. So it'll be opportunity to work with other workshop participants to actually explore and experience both the challenges and potential solutions for how to approach testing AI. And then on the other side of it, we'll also explore testing for the purpose of discovering risk and analysis prior to testing, and how can we analyze AI-based risks. And I'll provide a risk model specific for AI that we can then use in these groups to use those as lenses to look through and try and consider and think about potential risk, especially that social risk when it comes to AI-based systems. So it really is an engaging experience. So unfortunately, we can't do this remotely or online, but this workshop has worked well in helping introduce people to the concepts and allow them to actually experience how to approach testing AI.
Fantastic. We are excited to definitely see this come to pass. We are only about a month away from it. So for those out there, if you're on the fence, I hope this is giving you some inspiration to say, yes, I want to come out and be here in person. And so we encourage you to do so. And for everybody else, for anybody who wants to be able to possibly talk about these ideas, they just can't make the conference, they can't participate, but they're definitely curious and they want to know more about what you're talking about. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm relatively easy to find on LinkedIn, or you can email me at ben@qualityfrog.com, and I'd be happy to talk about this stuff with anyone who's interested.
Magnificent. Well, Ben, thanks so much for joining us today. And for everybody out there, thank you once again for participating in PNSQ Chronicles. We will see you soon. Take care, everybody.
Right. Thank you.